Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Moderns Exhibition Lecture Series. I'm glad y'all are here tonight. My name is Tiffany Wolf-Smith, and I am the Curator of Education here at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth. And I am also your friendly reminder to silence your cell phones at this point, if you have not already. I'm doing it right now. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I want to do a plug to ask you to be back here 2 weeks from now on August 29th at 8 p.m. The artist David Jeremiah will be presenting his artist talk. You do not want to miss it. So you've been told you do not want to miss it. Come back here, 8 p.m., August 29th. Same format, tickets will be free, but if you're interested in getting tickets in advance, they are available on our website the day before for a nominal fee. So tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce guest curator Christopher Blay, a Liberian-born American artist, curator, and writer whose multifaceted career has shaped contemporary art conversations across Texas and beyond. Currently based in Fort Worth, Blay holds a BFA in studio art and art history from our nearby Texas Christian University. He served as chief curator at the Houston Museum of African American Culture from 2021 until recently, 2024. Following his tenure as news editor at Glass Tire and over a decade as curator of the Art Corridor Galleries at Tarrant County College. His critical voice and curatorial insight are widely recognized. Blay is a contributing writer to Art in America, with essays on artists such as David Jeremiah, Jamie Holmes, and Julie Speed. His catalog contributions include texts for Erica de Freitas, Richard Doherty, Nathaniel Donnett, Alan Governor, Letitia Huckabee, and Richard Prince. Most recently, he curated the 2024 citywide African American Artist Exhibition at the Glassell School for the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. In addition to his curatorial and writing practice, Blay is an accomplished visual artist. His recent projects include the East Rosedale Monument project, which was commissioned by the Fort Worth Public Art Commission and completed in 2024 and is currently on view, and it's awesome. Stop by, park, sit in it, it's incredible. His solo exhibition, Ritual at the Galveston Art Center from 2024, and the group exhibition recently at Ballroom Marfa, spring of 2025, titled Elemental Currents, Material Memory, and Myth. So this evening, Blay will take us into the work of David Jeremiah, beginning with the artist's early practice and work that functioned both as a point of origin and a point of departure for the artist's evolving vision. We'll look at the recurring themes of these beginnings, such as the Lamborghini and bullfighting, and the provocative intersections between beauty, violence, and art. Blay will also unpack the artist's embrace of conceptualism and materiality, revealing how these sensibilities are rooted in and challenge traditions of conceptual art and minimalism. And we'll finally turn to the experience of the exhibition itself, guest curated by Blay, titled David Jeremiah, The Fire This Time, that's currently on view here at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth, and explore how the audience becomes an active participant in the work, blurring the boundaries between viewer and subject. Through this lens, Blay will guide us in further understanding David Jeremiah's practice, not just a body of art objects, but as a dynamic, participatory encounter. And side note, please make sure after the lecture to explore this incredible exhibition. Lucky for you, it's Free Friday, All you have to do is go up to the front desk and they'll hand you a ticket and you can go right in. We'll save some time at the end of this lecture for questions. I'll be on hand and I'll pass the mic through the audience. But for now, please help me in welcoming our guest curator, Christopher Blay.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you everyone for being here on this early Friday evening. I know traffic is crazy around here, so thank you for making the trek. I'd first like to thank the Modern Art Museum, Tiffany Wolf-Smith, and the Chief Curator, Andrea Carnes, for the invitation to engage with David Jeremiah's work and curate this exhibition. I have a long history with the Modern Art Museum. I used to go to the old building for the Tuesday evening lectures, and back then they had wine. And you're missing out tonight, but there's a cafe, so. I also came here on Tuesday evenings when I was a student at TCU, when the building was newly opened, and the first couple of years, the series of artists were really stellar, and I always point to that as sort of my proper art education. So it's really great to be here. So Andrea called me a little over a year ago to propose this partnership, and I sprung at the opportunity because I'd worked with David Jeremiah before in Houston. When the first exhibition I did in Houston was a early career survey of DJ's work, and we had a few challenges with the size of our building. We showed a couple of the pieces that are in this show, but with our little 8-foot ceilings and these over 10-foot high paintings, it didn't get the fullness that DJ envisioned. And so part of the really great opportunity here is to work alongside DJ to fully realize this body of work. So it's really great to have that opportunity to do that here. David Jeremiah's Inferno. I'm playing the role of Virgil here, and we're gonna sort of go down the levels of hell to emerge whole and refined to a fuller relationship with art and with DJ's work. Another really cool thing I'm thinking about as I'm putting this talk together is the scene in Pulp Fiction where Jules is sitting in the cafe, and he has this quote, and I'll just read it. "The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the flesh, the selfish, and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you." So what we're pondering here is our roles. Is DJ the shepherd? Are we the tyranny of evil men? Are the paintings the lost children? Things to ponder. Although probably just my way of getting in a Pulp Fiction, Pulp Fiction reference here tonight. And the reason I'm standing here tonight is will become clear with the next slide, which is the non-disclosure agreement that the artist David Jeremiah has signed with the paintings in the exhibition. I'll give you a moment to just sort of peruse it, but essentially, he is not going to talk about those paintings here. And here's the proof of that, and that's why I'm standing here. I think it's a brilliant sort of connection to, I'm sorry? Oh, I thought someone said something. I think it's a brilliant connection to conceptualism when you can, as he described, make a ready-made out of a ready-made. Like, this is a form that you can probably get online, but he's had it certified and signed, so it's kudos. These are the paintings as they are installed or were installed in the early iterations in David Jeremiah's studio. I show them here just to kind of give you an idea of the origins and how this work has developed over time. And as I said, the fire this time is the closest to DJ's vision of how the works are meant to be experienced. And if you walk in the galleries, you'll see that they are installed in two configurations in the round, and those configurations create pentagrams and with access points where you can walk into the center and experience 5 of these paintings in each of the 2 circles. And then the paintings in the circles are part of the first 3 sets of 7 paintings that DJ created for this body of work. Along the sides of the gallery space are the rest of the paintings, and then in the last 3 galleries are the final set of 7 paintings that DJ created. I really love this slide. Images of this work just kind of fall flat because the only way to experience it is being in the gallery and really getting as close as you can without the guards yelling at you, and really looking at these surfaces. And there's surface variations as you walk from painting to painting, and they're build up on some surfaces, and some surfaces have less of an impasto material surface. So, like most paintings that we see as monochromatic, they have this kind of oscillation, and for these works, the viscosity is very apparent. And what you're looking at is how DJ applied paint to the surface. And the paint, as I say, is sort of like proprietary mix that DJ derived. And when we're talking about these paintings, I want to introduce and defend the idea of, or DJ's place in the history of conceptualism. There's usually not a strong conversation about materiality when we think about conceptualism, but there is a strong history of materiality in conceptualism. I can think of Christopher and Jean-Claude, for example, or Joseph Kosuth himself with the chair. There's just a lot of ways to consider conceptualism and materials, and I think DJ does that deftly in this body of work. So DJ works in sets of 7, and this series is one of those ways that he built on 4 different sets of 7 paintings. It's one of the few nods to metaphysics and mathematics and spiritualism in this body of work. The first set of 7 is kind of started, and then it's improved upon on the second set of 7, and then by the third set of 7, it's just sort of like this fully realized, evolved body of work. But for this particular body of work, he pushes it even further into a 4th set of 7 paintings. And the last 4 final set of 7 paintings are in the last 3 galleries of this exhibition. So 7 is a number that's found in a lot of religions and in metaphysics and in mathematics. All the religions, including the Judeo-Christian religions, hold the number 7 sacred. And so that's one way that I point to spiritualism in this body of work from DJ. And that kind of mystical association finds parallels in some of the works that I've chosen from the Moderns Permanent Collection that I will talk about in a minute. Look at that thing. The Lamborghini Veneno here is, for a cool $4 million, you too can sit behind the wheel of one of these bad boys. And so, it's no surprise. The Lamborghini automobile is the conceptual center for this body of work and for other series of works in DJ's collection of works. So the paintings kind of symbolize this, really beautiful, shiny, super fast muscle car, and it's named after fighting bulls. After a certain year, all the Lamborghini models were being named after bulls from Spanish bullfights. And so herein lies this nexus of beauty and violence, and the artist focuses on that aspect of these cars and draws parallels to humanity's own sort of fusing of beauty and violence. And so both the danger and the beauty of Lamborghinis are inextricably linked. So DJ has always loved Lamborghinis, and he has delved into the mythos as an apt metaphor for how blackness is perceived and exploited in culture, and uses that information to upend the power dynamics in art and culture and invert that relationship. So walking into the space, looking at these bodies of work, there's a temptation, as we always do, to stand in front of a body of work and not look any further than what's in front of us. And this kind of dynamic is inverted in this series of works. So you walk into the space, instead of you contemplating the paintings become the thing and you become the subject. So you are like, you're being watched, you're being observed, you're the fuel to the fire in the campsite that DJ has created with these paintings. And so this campfire configuration is in the shape of a pentagram. The design symbolizes earth, air, water, and spirit, and it combines the sacred and the profane, twisted in the beauty and violence of the fighting bull and the Lamborghini cars, from which the paintings derive their shapes. So when inverted, the pentagram is associated with Satanism, further emphasizing that duality and inversion in DJ's work. So if you're looking at it for what it is a symbol of earth, air, fire, water, calmness, balance. But if you invert it, it becomes something completely different, and that duality exists in that form. So this work also confronts the commodification and exploitation of blackness in art and triggers the discomfort with real realness, or hood realism as I call it. As we as observers are the fire for these paintings. The dynamic has shifted. We go to the opening and visit the show not as patrons, but as fuel. These works aren't consumed, they consume. The title of this body of work, Hood Niggas Camping, is neither shocking nor transgressive. Rather, it is an inverted relationship to text and language that would make the conceptual artist Lawrence Weiner proud. DJ coined the phrase inverted performance installation as a way of talking about this sort of shift in dynamic. So the language of Hood Niggas Camping is language that you know, that you hear, but that you instantly recognize as having power because you can't say it. And I'm reminded of Yahweh, the personal name of God in the Hebrew Bible, often written as this acronym, YHWH in English, because of its sacred nature in Judaism, and it's not even pronounced by some observant Jews. So instead, words substitute with terms like Adonai or Hashem, and this is another point of spirituality in DJ's work. Spiritual in alchemy sense, in a sense of mysticism rather than an ecumenical sense. And I have these two paintings next to each other, or this painting up here, because it's one of the first time that DJ uses the Lamborghini hood articulations, and it would later lead to the body of work that we have in this show. These works are from the I Drive These series, and it's another series of 3 sets of 7 round-shaped paintings or tondos based on the steering wheel of Lamborghinis. They contain abstracted imagery of human collarbones, orchid blossoms, both because of the origin of the word orchid, which is testicle, but also an apt tribute to the vicious and sometimes victorious fighting bulls. And you'll also see horns carved into the viscous surfaces of each painting. When DJ imagines masculinity, as in his I Drive These series, he's saying who is driving who makes the rules, and who is actually in control. By posing these questions, David Jeremiah methodically creates moments of control and agency within his work. And these I Drive Thee paintings are laden with manila rope and paint colors symbolizing things like cowardice or dried blood from a bullfight, and other layers of meanings that link the paintings to the brutality of man versus beast, which in DJ's mind is really beast versus beast, humanity denying its own brutal legacy by using the ritual of bullfighting as a way of avoiding the real nature of humans. And this is a through line in DJ's work and how it melts the facades of things and reveal the true nature of things through language and concepts that embrace the fire and walks on the coals as a proposal for getting to the healing part. In his acronym series, from which the shapes of these hood nigga camping are derived, David Jeremiah creates acronyms of phrases and sentiments that scream anger and hate from a black person to a white person in the void. This is the kind of cathartic healing embedded in DJ's work that some viewers see as rage and only rage. In a deftly executed inverted exercise, the artist invited audiences at one of the viewings of his show to write down guesses of what the acronyms meant. And at the end, he invited volunteers to stand forward and say what they thought it was. And of course, no one came forward. And DJ's sort of frustration with that audience led to what I think is still his stance today, which is, after making dozens of paintings and pouring his mind and body into his work, there's a hesitation to engage directly with the strong emotions that the work evokes. Viewers either descend into sound bites or polite conversation that diminishes the conviction and honesty of these paintings. So rather than perpetuate this, centuries-long conversation to nowhere, the artist now wants the work and his writings to speak for themselves if we're willing to live in our discomfort. So rather than starting with the artist, he admonishes us to start first with the work and then the volumes of writings that he's created that live parallel with the work. And then if we have any questions, maybe hit him up and have a conversation based on an informed association with the work. So talking back to the acronym paintings, they harken back to this conversation between James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni, two of America's great thinkers. And in that conversation, Giovanni states, I think one of the nicest things that we created as a generation was just the fact that we could say, hey, I don't like white people. She continued saying, it was the beginning, of course, of being able to like them. And this is where DJ wants to take audiences, through that fire. Through the hard places, looking at it honestly and authentically with realness and not engaging in rote conversations about healing and about getting along, but really doing the work of going through the hard places to the point of healing. So another series from DJ that leans into fictional violence as catharsis and healing from actual violence is I Heart Micah. It is here and elsewhere that I make a case for DJ's kinship with groundbreaking conceptual artists such as Chris Burton. The other is The Lookout. In I Heart Micah, DJ fashions bumper stickers that say, I Heart Micah, and surreptitiously affixes them to bumpers of parked police squad cars, which he follows and records with a video camera. In 2016, Micah Xavier Johnson, the Micah of I Heart Micah, ambushed and shot police officers in Dallas, killing 5, injuring 9, and wounding 2 civilians. Micah was then killed by a remotely detonated drone car. By placing these stickers on squad cars, DJ is performing a ritual act that symbolizes and seeks the same catharsis from a system that historically targets Black people. So I want to shift now to where I see DJ's work in the canon of conceptualism and how his work is in conversation with some of the art and artists in the Moderns collection. I make bold and defensible associations between DJ's work and the canon of modern and contemporary art. And walking through the fire this time is the strongest defense I can offer. This is a still from The Lookout. It's a 3-week-long performance in September of 2019 at an East Dallas art space run by gallerist Noe Garcia. DJ's instructions are on the wall. He invites the audience into a concrete cell he has fashioned in the space and engages directly with and confronts both the prison industrial complex and the history of racist violence against Black people. Here, the artist is pictured being tattooed with a KKK mask by a visitor to the performance who is instructed to don a KKK mask. I want to look at Chris Burden's early practice here and consider how both artists center their bodies as spaces for conceptual, ritual, and mystical thinking. In the upper left there, you see Chris Burden's shoot, and on the bottom is Chris Burden's transfixed, and the image I just showed you of David Jeremiah in the Lookout in Dallas. So when DJ places a bumper sticker on a squad car in 2019, and when Burden lays on a busy street protected only by a blanket and some caution flares, they both evoke a confrontation with the state at their own peril. When John Baldessari cremated his unsold paintings from 1953 to 1966 and baked them into cookies, it was about permission, liberation, and transformation, burning away to reveal the essence of things. In La Anima at the Clark Institute last year, David Jeremiah installed videos of the ritualistic cremation of the last painting in his I Drive Thee series, along with the urns he designed for the ashes. The urns designs are derived from Lamborghini steering columns. This cremation, like the last painting in Hood Niggas Camping, is a burning away of facades to reveal the spirit of the work. I've chosen not to share the fire this time with slides in this lecture because it's, like I said earlier, the best way to experience this work is being in the gallery. And I encourage all of you, if you haven't already, to spend some time in that space with those paintings. But I do want to share some of the works from the Moderns Permanent Collection that I've selected to be on view in conversation with DJ's show and some of my thinking about those selections. Some of my choices are formal and have to do with visual connections, and others delve deeper and make connections with what DJ is doing in his work. This is Anselm Kiefer's Quaternity from 1973 and part of the Moderns collection. And the connection here is not only in scale, but how the spiritual blends with alchemy and mysticism. So in this image, you'll notice there are 3 flames representing the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And you'll see the snake in there emerging, representing Satan. On closer inspection, you'll also see that the orange lines in this painting create a pentagram. And as you walk through the space in the galleries, you'll see DJ's work also configured in this pentagram. As we talked about earlier, there's a duality to the pentagram. If it's experienced straightforward, it can be about earth and balance and spirituality. And if it's inverted, it becomes something else. This composition Well, I'm going to tell you about the other reason that I'm thinking about Anselm Kiefer, and this work is not part of the Moderns collection, but it's Kiefer's Occupation series, which he created in 1969. And these photographs are of a German artist traveling across Europe and raising the Nazi salute. As a child, a German child born after 1945, there's a certain legacy that Kiefer inherited that no one truly engaged with. It was one of those things like racism, like the way Black people are treated, that got swept under the rug. And Kiefer chose to stare directly into that discomfort and that inheritance and meet it full force as a way of going through that trauma and emerging on the other side. So I hope with this painting and these works, you can see how I'm thinking about DJ's place in not only in the modern connection, but how he's engaging with some contemporary artists. A second work here is Clyfford Stills from 1956, J number 1, paired with the first in the concluding series of DJ's works, In the Fire This Time. And there's some formal aspects to this work that I draw connections with, but also Clyfford Still's deep suspicion of the art world and institutions, which is an undeniable streak in DJ's own practice. They both famously share the hesitation to talk about what's happening in their works and insist that the audience do some of the work to genuinely engage with the art. Here is, how old is this? Like 2 years? I mean, how long have you had it? About 2 years, yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's a new acquisition here at the Modern, although it's been exhibited before. This is Mark Rothko, and there's a connection with Rothko that I see in DJ's work. There are rich nuances in how their surfaces shimmer and vibrate in dark spaces, and they both share a minimalist, maximalist approach to painting. Not to mention building on sections of 3 to assemble a whole. Spirituality with Rothko leans more to the ecumenical end of the spectrum, with the chapel being a spiritual space with a capital S, while spiritualism in DJ's work comes from a more primal origin, from whence also came our darker angels. I also pay attention to the pentagram of DJ's installation and the octagon of Rothko's chapel, the former creating a mini Rothko chapel here at the Modern. The John Chamberlain and to some extent the Gerhard Richter, which is not shown in this slide, is pulled from the Martin's collection to serve as a conduit between horsepower revs that echo from the factory floors of Detroit in the 60s and 70s to the low rumbles created in the parallel Italian chambers of industry. DJ's affinity for Lamborghinis plays well with the muscle car dreams of car and driver centerfolds that percolate through the works of artists like Ed Ruscha, and as we see here, John Chamberlain, and also Richard Prince. This slide is from Richard Prince's 2022 exhibition at the Gagosian Gallery, and Richard Prince uses actual car hoods as like Chamberlain does, as opposed to, say, Gerhard Richter, who paints from photographs and in that way has a strong affinity to what DJ is doing, in that he is mediating the space between the actual car and the paintings that he's creating. The black male body is a site of fear, danger, and desire. We are at the same time villains, predators, hypersexualized, and disposable. The world is comfortable consuming, monetizing, and profiting from black culture when the language is in black spaces. But it is challenged and scrutinized when it is in white spaces, where it is rejected, vulgarized, and scrutinized as the other. What DJ is proposing here is an inversion of that dynamic. The conversation about healing, equality, and equity are just that, conversations. DJ has done the work, and he asks us to meet him halfway. This exhibition is an experience, not a didactic download of text and information. But it's there if you want to see beyond to the essence of the thing. And although he won't hold your hand through it, he is there in every painting. Thank you. I want to leave space for questions and just kind of emphasize that the strongest takeaway that I want you to have is to experience these works, like be in the gallery. If you came to see the show, get a catalog, yes, 100%, but also experience the works in the space that it was created for. So with that, I'll be happy to answer questions. Yes?
So one question that I was wondering about is with the body painting series. You were showing a close-up of the paint on it, and it was very thick and viscous, and I was curious how that really relates to this artwork and why David Jeremiah chose to use that compared to a traditional paint.
That's a great question. He's asking why the choice of paint and the impasto thickness of the paint on the surfaces.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here, oh, there, okay, yeah, sorry. So he's asking about the surface of DJ's paintings and why he chose to use the kind of paint that he did and sort of the thickness and the viscosity of the paint. I can say that DJ does not reveal specifically what the materials are, but they are the surface of these paintings. They from the first set of 7 paintings to the last set of 7 paintings, they build up and then they burn off. So it's part of the series of paintings and part of the way that he has conversation with the medium of painting. From the very last painting in the series, all that surface area is sort of symbolically burnt away, and it's left to the very, very edges of the painting. And in the first set of 7 paintings, as you enter the gallery, it's the thickest layer of painting. So there's a process of like removal, but it's also that kind of attention to surface has a strong conversation with the history of painting. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. What's the significance of color being introduced in the last 3 galleries, and why is the last gallery red, majority?
So if you imagine all 4 of the galleries being a campsite, you can sort of begin to visualize the first and the main gallery as sort of the campsite just before sunset. And then as you walk into the last 3 galleries, you can imagine the fire getting bigger and the night getting darker. And these paintings are themselves, like the artist, victims of getting too close to the flame. DJ really leans into this concept of these paintings having a spirit and a form. And the color red there is reads to me as fire and reads to me as the true revelation of the spirit of the painting. The first four paintings in the last 3 galleries have colors that I recognize as the color palette of some of the Lamborghinis that DJ has, or some of the colors of Lamborghinis that DJ has used in previous works. Although it also can lean towards how a fire develops and how it sort of like leaps and builds and cools and heats and goes through a spectrum of colors.
Hey, Christopher. I had a question about in the introduction, there's talk about black masculinity. And when I looked at the figures, I saw what looked like some female forms. Any thoughts about that? Or is that just me projecting?
Well, the future is female, so these forms are no exception. I think there's a kind of like Rorschach effect looking at these paintings. It's one thing for the artist to tell us what he was thinking about when he made these paintings, and it's another thing for me to tell you what I think these images look like, but really they take on a form and life of their own when they come into the world. So I can't say with any certainty that what you imagine is there isn't there, but I can tell you what the artist is pointing to when he's making these works. And it really is that sort of reference to the duality of beauty and violence in these machines and how it reflects back on society.
And I have an installation question. Was the choice of these miniature pentagrams within the show, was that a curatorial choice, or was that a choice of the artist in the installation?
Necessity is the mother of invention. If I were to speculate about the ultimate way that these paintings are meant to be viewed, I would say that if there was a space big enough for one massive circle, that would be it. And so the decision was made in consultation with DJ to make these 2 circles. And at first the circles would have had 6 paintings each. But that would expand much further into the space, and it would diminish the kind of intimacy of being in those circles as you experience now. So it's a partially a logistic thing, and DJ would be the first one to tell you that he doesn't truly believe that, although this comes to the super closest to what he envisioned, I don't know, like I have my own sort of thought experiment about what if these paintings had their own sort of Rothko-esque chapel to be experienced, like the rodent crater, for example, in the true ultimate manifestation of what the artist envisioned.
I don't think I have a question, but well, maybe it's a question. In the evocation of a campfire, I've been focusing on the word camp. And of course, I immediately go to kind of camp as an aesthetic, as a way of being, campy. I'm thinking of excess, artificiality, posing. And so, I mean, of course, in the campfire pentagram arrangement, you're describing a kind of spiritual space, but then I also wonder, well, is there also this possibility of a kind of total opposite of a kind of spiritual, high modernist setting? So I guess I'm curious, does the campfire include other kinds of camp in the work?
That's a yes and response to that. Yes. This association with conceptualism in DJ's work is also heavily rooted in language and how you approach language and how, the multiple meanings of text and language and words. So camp does mean campy. I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, it does feel like there's a shit ton of paintings in here, and it's like, really big and really imposing. And then in another respect, it's, the DJ describes it as the camping aspect of it as moving from space to space, like camping out at the Modern, camping out next at the Gagosian, I don't know. But moving from space to space is another kind of hanging out, camping. So there's duality and layers and holes and rabbit holes and a lot of places that this language goes, and rightfully so.
And so I know you curated the conversation between the permanent collection and David Jeremiah. What's the conversation between David Jeremiah and Sean Scully?
Good question. Yeah, a really beautiful thing is happening, part serendipity, and that Scully painting is intentionally placed there because of the kind of verticality and monolithic presentation that it shares with DJ's work. But as you walk through, this is where the paintings are, and if you're walking through and you turn right, you'll see the Scully. And then if you continue into the gallery and look right, you'll see the Donald Judd stacks. And if you go to the last gallery and you turn right, you'll see the Martin Purrier ladder. These things just kind of, it makes my job easier because I don't want to make a case for DJ's place in the conversations about conceptualism and modernism, because the connections between the Moderns collection and his work makes that case for me. So it's simply, here's a contemporary artist having big and larger conversations with other works of contemporary art. It's for me, it's a no-brainer.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll do one more.
Thanks for your speech. I haven't had the chance to visit the exhibit yet, so this question comes out of ignorance. But just your words and descriptions, particularly when you talk about violence and beauty together, and Lamborghinis, I wonder if there is a social commentary in terms of the current state of our nation involved in this work.
The question is about any associations between this work and America in 2025. I'll answer it this way. All important works of art have a timelessness and a conversation that transcends the present. Just being alive and making art in this past decade connects it to everything that's happening and divorces it from everything that's happening. I see artists as having a longer view than a reactionary view to the world. We're always looking beyond, because if we start from the place of reacting to the world as in real time, it just falls flat, because art is a longer conversation, and I think that's what's happening here.
Okay, I think that's our time. Thank you, Christopher, for being here. I encourage you all to go experience the work, to be engulfed by it, to be pressed in by it, to gather with it, to see its beauty, and to come out transformed. Ultimately, I know that's what the artist intends with this installation. So thank you, Christopher.
Thank you all for being here.
And we'll see you all back here on August 29.